Sushi came to the United States sometime in the 60s. During the 70s and 80s, it became popular on the West and East Coast with a more select clientele. But over the last 20 years, it's become one of the more approachable international foods around. Today, we're making salmon nigiri, and now we're cooking. So today, like I said, we're doing some salmon nigiri, and while the show is called Now We're Cooking, we're really not cooking much of anything except for some rice in a little while here. But what I want to talk to you today about is not just how delicious this stuff is, because if you like sushi, you already know this, but a lot of people don't think that making it at home is really approachable. Obviously, there's a lot of different ways to make sushi. One of the more popular ways to eat it is in rolls. That can be a tricky situation if you're not sure how to do it. But making nigiri, which is simply the fish and rice and maybe a dipping sauce, is incredibly easy to make. What most people don't realize is that they can get sushi-grade fish from most any butcher or fresh seafood dealer as long as you call ahead. Now, the rice takes the longest thing in this whole entire project, so we're going to make some sushi rice first. Now, the first thing we're doing here is we're actually going to make a rice vinegar seasoning, essentially. So what this is a quarter cup of rice vinegar. We're putting 4 teaspoons of granulated sugar, and granulated is the way you want to go typically with sushi rice, and also 1 teaspoon of kosher salt. Now all we're doing here is bringing it up to about a medium to low medium heat and just stirring until this mixture is fully dissolved. One of the most important things about cooking this rice is making sure it's properly rinsed. Now, I sat here with this for about a good 2 minutes, so just keep in mind, rinse it really, really, really good. Using my trusty rice cooker today, so we're just going to throw in all of our ingredients as well as 2 cups of filtered water, and this is going to take about 25 minutes to complete. And while we wait for our rice to cook, we get to do the part that's the most fun when it comes to making sushi, or at least nigiri. Yep, we're back to the fish. Now we're cutting this, and there's a couple little rules. Now, I am no sushi chef, but I did a little bit of research just to make sure I didn't screw this up completely, especially being that it is fairly easy. When you're cutting your fish, there's a couple little rules, right? And one of them is you want to be slicing this at with any chance you have, with one good slice, and a motion from front to back towards you, your body being turned a little to the right to provide a little pocket that your arm can move back in. One solid, smooth motion. I did have too much fish hanging out up top here, so I kept running into it with the knife, but that was my fault. You don't have to do that. You can do it better than I did. One thing to note, though, when you're cutting sushi properly with a sharp knife, you ideally would like a long, thin knife. The other thing, too, is just remember what you're eating. If you need to trim your fish block down a little bit in order to make your slices the right size for a piece of sushi, make sure you do that. You don't want to end up with a foot-long wide piece of fish, because you're gonna have too much fish, is what I'm saying. You're gonna have way too much fish. And the next thing we're gonna do, and this is something that is always great with any kind of sushi, is a good dipping sauce that's gonna be based with soy, and we're making a sweet soy ginger today. That's what we've got going on, and it's super easy to make, and you can use this really with more than just this fish. You can use it on a lot of different things. It'll work for you, being that it's a little more versatile given its sort of sweet and savory profile. We kind of eyeballed the amount of the ingredients here, so what I would suggest if you're going to make this sauce is to test it, give it a try, add a little of each of these as you go. We're using roughly a quarter cup to a half cup of soy sauce. We're going to add a good couple of squeezes of ginger. I, in fact, used more ginger a little later on to brighten up a little more. We're also using a little bit of rice vinegar to enhance the brightness even further. And we're using about 4 teaspoons of granulated sugar. Ideally here, your soy sauce, you may maybe warm it up slightly in the microwave, 10-15 seconds, just enough so that particularly the sugar will dissolve properly during your mixing of this.
Oops. That's a little bit more aggressive than I wanted it to be.
Be careful. It's hot, and apparently it's really fast. It can open up real quick and do some damage. So get your rice out. You should be done with that now, and now we're going to start making the actual nigiri. We're putting the rice and the fish together. So what I did and what I tried to stick to, and to be fairly honest with you, I did screw up a few times here, but I think a good rule of thumb at least, would be making small pads of rice here, rectangular shape but sort of rounded, and you're going for about 3 inches long by about 1 inch wide. Should be pretty good for most people. Another important thing to note, keep your hands wet with warm water. This keeps the rice from sticking to you. And otherwise, if you don't do this, not only will you have rice all over your hands, but you're gonna probably wanna throw the bowl of rice you've made out the window. I'm well aware I didn't have fresh wasabi or ginger. Believe me, I wasn't trying for that. But just listen to this.
Cheers.
I'm gonna eat now.